What is ghosting in this current job market? Ugh, trash. Hello, I'm Tara Turk Haynes, and I own a company called Equity Activations. If you've been following me, we are a company that provides equitable people operations fractionally for companies who are looking to build out talent acquisition, employee engagement, DEI, learning and development. I've been doing this work for over 17 years. Talent acquisition is it's my favorite thing. I got into it just to try to impact, to give more space and create more opportunities for those who were sometimes being looked over because of biases. And I did that in-house for many years. And yeah, I've been in it, came with 17 years. Wow. Okay. Okay. Well, here we go. Okay, ghosting. Um, so, what is ghosting when we talk about this trash job market right now? It is bad because there are a lot of people and not enough jobs. And I do feel like there is an element of recruiting processes that are regressing because of that sort of power dynamic that's shifted a little bit. In my preference, that would not be the case. We would still be doing best practices and going above and beyond. I specialize in human-centered people operations in a technology and digital world. I do love using technology and digital assets as much as possible, but also, don't forget that people are human, and especially in this market, it feels like sometimes people are feeling like they're not being treated that way. So, ghosting happens on both sides, right? Really quickly, for the recruiting community, that happens when a candidate is a no-show for a interview, whether that's with the recruiter or the hiring manager, panel of people. You don't show up, you don't tell anybody. That is ghosting. And it does happen, honestly, and it is not a great situation. We'll talk a little bit about how to deal with some of the ghosting that happens because my job here is essentially to provide solutions, but also bridge the gap between the conversations that are happening in the recruiting community and also in the talent community. I have my feet firmly planted in both because I do believe there is not enough conversation happening between the two. And I see that. I live in other social media platforms. I follow job seekers. I want to hear what's happening because I always want to make the process better. And obviously, as a recruiting professional, I stay in those areas as well. And so the conversations I hear are vastly different in those separate communities. And I try to bridge that. So, when it happens to a job seeker, this usually is, when they have an interview and they don't hear back about which direction this is going, whether that's the recruiter, whether that's the hiring manager, the panel of seven, the CEO that you met after your presentation and your final. If you don't hear anything back from those opportunities, you have been ghosted. And it's not a great feeling and it's terrible. And I don't think that it is necessarily, it's not a best practice even either. Some people believe that when you've applied for a job and you don't hear back, that is ghosting. And listen, I think the recruiting communities and the recruiting departments that I've seen, they've gotten a little bit creative in terms of like how they communicate when you apply for a job. Usually you apply for a job, you get an email that says, thanks for your application. It used to say, thanks for your application. We'll review it and get back to you. That's usually what I do because I love to over communicate. Obviously, I have a YouTube channel and I'm on Instagram and I'm talking about this on Threads and on LinkedIn. Just compassionate about it. I like to communicate. I do not feel like we need to lose that aspect of recruiting just because technology or because the market's changed. But there are recruiting communities and departments who feel like they don't want to over communicate. So you might get an email nowadays that says, thanks for your application. If your skill sets match what we are looking for, we will get back to you. Basically saying if they don't, you're not going to hear back about this job at all. Some candidates feel like that is an element of ghosting, or you don't get anything back after you've applied. Is that ghosting? No. So ghosting is not when they just don't communicate to you after you have applied. Um, It's not great, it sucks, but ghosting usually happens after you've actually talked to someone and you don't hear back after that. There are horror stories of people never hearing back from a recruiting team after they've applied and talked to many different people, or they have get rejections after a year. After they spoke to people, there are processes in place as we talk about technology and as we talk about digitally and automation and AI and all of these different things, making recruiting processes better, that I feel like we could be leaning more into. It makes it easier for you to, it doesn't take a lot for you to just set up a rejection after someone has applied. They get the automated email that says thanks for applying. If they don't fit, you can just set up that rejection. It is not that rejection email. And you don't have to send it on a holiday. You don't have to send it on a Sunday. I don't believe in doing, some people want to hear immediately, and that's fine. I'm just trying to give grace and, all of that. I've talked, I think, about a bit about knockout questions. So if you get a rejection immediately after applying, maybe a few minutes or so, you likely hit a knockout question, which makes you not to be considered for that job, whether it's location or it's, a skill set, whatever they've asked you. If you are not set up for the ideal candidate, then some recruiting teams will automatically send it to you. There is a timer. We can figure out when we can send these rejections on our side. That is essentially, the beauty of technology, is that you are in control of it as a recruiting team, and it feeds what your philosophy is as a recruiting team. So when you're a job seeker, if you're experiencing some of these things, the company is basically telling you it's personality, right? In the way that they communicate with you, how they communicate with you. If they ghost you, they are telling you what their personality is. You get to decide then, is that a place that you want to be? Because like most relationships, the first few times you're together, that is when it's supposed to be glorious. It's supposed to be blissful. You're not supposed to have any problems initially. So if you're entering into this sort of, company relationship and you immediately feel like you are not being regarded, it is up to you to make the decision. So what to do about it? Um, I think so for the recruiting community, obviously, if you've gotten ghosted by a candidate, I think, and there are reasons why this. There's like fake candidates out there for the job seekers. There are a lot of fake candidates. You may not realize this, but there are people creating things and doing all kinds of sort of wild things, and that's why trust is eroding. But if you're a recruiting professional, maybe you're new to recruiting and you just don't have a mentor. My company provides that, but I would say make sure you're documenting the behavior of the candidate in the applicant tracking system, which you can do. I firmly believe that that's supposed to be a record of your experience with that candidate. So if they no show, you definitely have options in any applicant tracking system to say, this person no showed, they never got back to us. So that if they apply for another role a year from now, you will be able to say, like, hey, wow, okay, so you never showed up for this interview. And you can either engage and say, hey, you interviewed last year with us, you didn't show. This is why we're not proceeding, or did something happen, or whatever. I am the type of person who will ask somebody, hey, did something happen? Because I give grace. And in this market, that is very rare. People don't have a lot of time to do that. I do make time. That's probably to my own detriment, but I will be like, hey, did something happen? Anything can happen. Caregiving, whatever, whatever. I prefer you to let me know ahead of time, but sometimes that can't always be the case. So I will reach out and ask people. Every recruiter is not going to do that. They are just going to keep going. But if you're a recruiter, make sure you document and decide exactly how you want to engage in the future. Don't leave that record not documented, because if somebody comes up behind you and that person isn't something, it isn't somebody you want in that company anyway, because they've ghosted, let the next person know. That's why we have applicant tracking systems. They are platforms for us to document and keep record of and engage and communicate. Use it for what its advantages are. Okay, if you're a job seeker and you get ghosted, I saw this on Threads the other day, and this person was mad. And I get it. They had gone through a recruiter phone screen, a hiring manager, and they did a panel interview, and they felt like it was like a month or so that they haven't heard anything. And they were like, what is this? And should I blast this company or this recruiter? I have heard of candidates going to recruiters' LinkedIn posts and being like, you ghosted me. Should you be shouting people out like that? Personally, no. I do not think you should do that. I think you should just keep a record of who and what your experience is with certain companies and like make sure you remember that. There are also platforms that you can provide feedback on, Glassdoor and Blind. Really lean into telling other people what your experience is because those platforms do matter. I don't as a recruiting professional, Glassdoor was okay for me because sometimes people would lie and it's very hard to kind of get misinformation off of Glassdoor, but at least it's something where you are reviewing your experience, your recruiting experience with the company, and you're doing your best to let other people know. I do not recommend going on a specific recruiter's page and just blasting them. I just keep a mental note. Just make sure you remember who is saying what to you. You don't want to also ruin your chances with other recruiters because they might see you like, on somebody's LinkedIn and just crashing out. And they might be like, this person is not somebody we would hire. I don't want you to damage your future employment responsibilities or your future employment opportunities because you're upset and you could be rightfully upset as well, but that's not the place to do it. And don't ruin your own future when people don't have all the information. All they see is you just kind of crashing out and attaching your name underneath somebody else's post, and then a back and forth happens. Sometimes these, they're recruiters are people, right? Just like job seekers are people. You can't convince people who have decided to do something a certain way to do it another way. Directly. They a lot of times they already know that they don't, they know that they haven't gotten back to you. They know that. They are highly aware. But calling them out doesn't always change behavior. I think going to platforms like Glassdoor and Blind absolutely help other people know what they're getting into, and I think they can make a decision from there. We're in a weird economy right now where everyone is there's a lot of trust that's eroded. There are fake jobs, fake companies, fake candidates, a lot of AI creation, which makes it even harder to understand who the human being is. My job entirely is just trying to find how we can get back to being very human with each other and not needing a certain environment or market to be able to do that. Hopefully this video was helpful on ghosting, what ghosting is, how you can address ghosting. Hopefully we eliminate ghosting as much as possible. I hope we get back to being more communicative with the talent community. I hope that that means that the talent community can then just have more trust in the recruiting community. But I have dreams, and that is one of mine. If you like this video, please share it and also subscribe to my YouTube channel where I will talk more about these kinds of things and workplace things as well. If you are a company who needs help in these areas, you can visit my website at equityactivations.com and schedule a call and get a quote from us as well. But I will see you next time on when we talk about more workplace things. And if there's one that you really are dying to know about, comment in the comment section. Again, don't forget to subscribe.